Hey Tina,
Hi.
how
We
you
did.
doing?
My head hurts a little bit, but I'm cool. And your hair looks cute. So
Thank you. I'm
you
embracing the gray.
and the curls too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. My grays are coming in. You can tell um only when my hair is really like down, you can look
Hmm.
the sprinkles. It looks like tinsel right now. Oh, I can't hear you. Did you say something, Jessica? Yeah, I can't hear you at all.
Okay, for some reason I couldn't hear you for a minute.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying, did we? Oh, there he is.
Yes, hello, hello. Um, I was running late and I'm running a training and I'm down to one Yamas and Niyamas book and I'm looking all over for it. I'm gonna see if I have a copy somewhere. How is everybody doing? Embracing gray. I've been embracing gray for a good long time.
I've been coloring for a good long time, and I just decided to let it do what it wants to do.
Oh, please let that be it. Oh,
And turn
sorry,
light.
I was looking for a digital copy and I found my digital copy. Yeah, let it. I mean, for me, I didn't have a lot of friends who were able to make it to be able to wear gray. And so when I finally decided to embrace my gray, it really was in the sense to say, shit, I'm happy to have made it to a place to where I can wear my stripes, even though I did kind of shave them down. Because I can't wear my stripes up top, Hey Mimi, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking.
Oh, good to hear. Good
Is
to
this our
hear.
last? This is it, right? Our last tonight, our last one.
Yes,
Oh,
this is Ishvara Pranidhana. I know it flies by. It flies by.
Yeah,
As
Eve.
I looked, pull up, said notes. Since the gang's all here and everything, is there anything anybody wants to share about what they might have experienced in this last week? As always, what might have just kind of come up of being in this self-study is sort of what it all comes down to. But I think I had went to, sorry, the class that, yes, I know I was running late. I'm sorry, Miriam. I just saw your text. I finished up my, that was what I was looking for. I've had a busy week as I'm running an intensive training at Lotus to where, and then I teach a 7 p.m. class. And so I've been at Lotus for like 12 hours multiple days. So it was like catching up on my life. And as we have tomorrow off because of the holiday, I sat back and was like, oh, I finally got a little time to breathe. And then I said, oh, damn, I got to get back across town and make it for the Yamas and the Yamas. And so I have made it, and my self-study has been one of seeing how I'm so much of a last minute person that I really rely on my back against the wall to really kind of get things done. So my biggest obstacle in my life has always been procrastination. I am a procrastinator in the sense to where I just like to kind of get things done when I want to. And being an organized individual is not my strong suit, I will admit and have to say. And so I'm always struggling with that sense of organization. And it's my big thing, especially now I have a studio that I'm running. And as I say running, I mean running. As Mimi's a part of, our friend and partner that's there. And so I have a lot on my plate of having to make sure things happen in the way that they need to happen. So it's literally running my business and that business and a few things. But if it wasn't something I loved, I would not do it. So um, I have to say that, should is always be careful what you ask for and always know to love what you ask for in your life. Because if it wasn't for the love, I'd be pulling my eyebrows out. And I did have to shave them down because they grow so long they'll be in my eyes. It's the longest bit of hair I have. And I might have to put cornrows in them one day.
You can have them like, you could just like, that'd be cute. Are you Virgo rising or moon? I can't remember.
Vir- Virgo rising, Aquarius sun, Aquarius moon.
That bird kick your ass, huh? Kick that Aquarius and you out.
You know what I'm saying? It's such an interesting thing in that, I love to sort of be kind of like this sort of free spirit, but yet at the same time, I could be so focused in and so detail oriented that it gets a little crazy. And so then I'd be like, well, I don't want to do it because I'm gonna have to do it so damn specific. And it's like washing your car. It take me like 2 hours to wash my car, as opposed to just an hour to wash it down because I'm trying to detail it instead of just clean the damn thing. And so, yeah, I have a lot of putting my foot in my own butt. Enough about me, though. Anybody have anything?
I'll go. Um, I get agitated very quickly. That is a part of my self-study. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, I work with people all day and um I work with people, some people who talk, some people who don't talk, and I work with people on very basic needs, things that are very basic to me. And I like it. I like seeing their progress and stuff. But it can become pretty repetitive. Um, and then for some of the clients um, who are more vocal and who express more autonomy, I find that unfortunately sometimes it kind of drives me insane because there's a lot of perseveration, a lot of like asking for the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I can sometimes become a little bit mean or sharp.
mm,
Um, and I have to watch myself because it's like, well, I'm not their mom. Um, and if this is what moms do, I know their kids are pissed at them. Woo! Um, um, Yeah, I was also talking to my friend, one of my best friends. She does like my hair, gonna do my makeup and stuff. Is really like a just like an all around friend. You know, she can get somewhat deep with me. She can, she's my party friend and everything. And so I was just telling her something that my previous partner said about me, and um, it was that I try to make things okay. Like I try to make everything okay. Like if they're not feeling good, then I'm going to try and point out something that they can be grateful for or like a solution. And so it just brought up that I'm not always comfortable with people's uncomfortability or their mess.
Mm.
I'll just jump to like do something about it. And when I was telling my homegirl Nia this, she was like, usually she's like, fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch. Whatever that bitch is, fuck that bitch. She just want me to get over it and get to the person that's aligned for me. Um, but she just stopped for a second. She was just like, yeah, that's you. She's like, I can see that. She was like, yeah, when I was talking to you about something, she said that I just like, I told her that it was too much for my energy and I didn't want to take it in or I didn't have the capacity for it. And while I felt like that was like very respectful for me to say, I don't have the capacity for this right now. Like, she just, it probably was like another like thing to like add on to like, oh, this is how Miriam is. And
Mm.
yeah, last week we were going to the beach and the person who was doing the carpooling, like Nia was supposed to go with them, and then they were supposed to come and get me. This person was late, and so Nia is texting me, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like, it's not my problem. I'm just going to sit and be patient and wait for her to wake up. But Nia's like, oh, I'm going to come to your house and then we're going to go. And I'm just like, I want my friend to come, like, chill out, you know? But on my end, I'm just looking at the text messages, like, filtering, and I'm like, I'm not about to respond to none of this. And so they came and I tell them to pull over on the side of my building. And I can just tell that they're like trying to rush me and it's starting to piss me off. So I snap and I was like, I do not want this energy. This don't rush me. Wait. And it's just like a stark difference between Miriam, who's kind, who makes room for people to speak when I have it in me, to when I don't feel like I have it in me. I can be very like sharp and kind of mean, in my opinion,
Mm.
and not very like tolerable of things. And I'm like, I can only imagine that's probably how I treat myself. I
Mm.
know. So, um, yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, that reminds me of in the book she talks about being nice rather than kind. That we could be so nice to people that we wind up sacrificing ourselves instead of really kind of speaking up and saying what's real for us. And so that kind of that imbalance can be like, you know what? Let me not be nice and let me be kind. And kind is now just saying what's real for me. And there we can sort of find that middle ground and speaking up, to just like you said, in the sense of saying beforehand, like, listen, I this is what's going on, this is how I feel, and this is just simply where I am right now. And so this is what I can deal with. This is what I have the capacity for. And if you're down, you down. If not, I'm gonna go this way. And that's just right, being kind, not just to them, but also to ourselves. Because when we're nice, that's us, right? Just trying to be nice for the sake of somebody else so that I can, in a sense, save face, if you will. This is us really kind of being violent with ourselves and not kind of speaking up in what we fear that may come off of us being mean or not being friendly as Miriam disappeared.
I just want to like add to that because as Miriam was talking, it was I reflected a lot in that being feeling mean when you stand up for yourself, right? And feeling like it's not kind. And but my self-awareness moment was in that where I had this moment of, oh my God, if I don't speak up right now, I'm being violent towards myself because I feel like I have something to say. And right, I live with my sister now for a couple of months with her whole family. And that's an adjustment. It's an adjustment for everyone, right? Like you have another adult, there's well, a lot was said this week, I guess, expectations that were created but not let out loud from her end. Like to her, it was like, oh, there's another adult coming into this house that's going to be able to help with the things, but that was never expressed. And now you're popping off because you're upset that these expectations are not being met. And I could hear it that she was asking for help, right? That's all it was. It was her way of asking for help without it being like direct, I need help. Um, but like initially I want to pop off and be like, don't talk to me like that, right? Like let's get it together. But I was able to like hold it. And then before, right, because we've done some work, it's like, oh, usually I'll just stay quiet. I can recognize what it is that she's trying to say and let me just not say anything and just do better and we'll keep it pushing. But in that moment, I was like, no, I need to, right? Like we need to have this conversation. And I was like, what expectations do you have of me that you have not shared? And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I mean, like, clearly you've created some idea of what it was going to be like for me living in here. Like, and I'd like to know what that is so that I can either express, like, yeah, that's something I'm capable of doing, or like, that's not in my wheelhouse of things that I
Mm,
can do so that you're not getting upset at me continuously for me not meeting the expectations. Right. And then we were
mm,
able to, well, we had a conversation and then I'm an emotional being. So I start crying and the crying in my family just doesn't sit well.
mm,
So she's starting to shut down. And I was like, you cannot shut down because I am crying. Crying is an emotion, right? I was like, if I were to be popping off, you wouldn't be shutting down. You would be like, okay, let's take a breather. I was like, so the same idea, right? I'm gonna take a breather, but we're gonna keep the conversation going. Um, but it was just really nice. It almost felt like it was playing out in slow motion. And then I journaled that night about it because it was such an intense like moment. And it was just, it felt like it was the book playing itself out in different parts, right? Like, oh shit, it's the nonviolence piece, like towards myself, not anyone else, right? It's the being kind and understanding of others, right? It was one of those. But yeah, that was my self-awareness moment.
mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Oh, you good, Miriam? Thank you for sharing, and that looks good, whatever it is. Anyone else have anything they may want to share? I see Jessica unmuted.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Hmm.
Okay, I was having a little trouble with my AirPods earlier. There was something in our last chapter. I don't think we talked about it, but I read the part where it's talking about uh like father and son or somebody looking into the river, and the child is asking the dad if the river is polluted. And the father says, no, the river is not polluted. It's only carrying the pollution, but the
Mm,
river itself is pure. And then it was talking about how, like, that's how it is with our minds. And our minds carry things, thoughts, stories, beliefs, but then we think we are those things instead of just that we're carrying those things. And the last part about it, I'm just like looking down at what I highlighted. I was saying like
what
if
page?
we it's on page 160 and it's paragraph 2.
Okay.
So where it's saying if we identify with the divine in us or the pure river in us and merely watch the thoughts float by, we'll know that we're simply carrying the thoughts and the stories and beliefs, but we are not the thoughts and stories and beliefs. And of course, I've always heard like you are not your thoughts,
Mm,
but or you are not your feelings. Like you have thoughts, you have feelings, but somehow this um it's an analogy or a metaphor? Metaphor. This metaphor.
yeah. Yes.
um when I was able to see it in that way, two things happened. I started to be like, okay, what thoughts am I carrying? What stories am I carrying? What beliefs am I carrying? And that applies to everything every day, but it just gave me another way to look at it. But
Mm,
the I think the other thing that was even more important for me was about identifying with the divine in us or the pure river in us. Because I
mm,
feel like so many times I'm looking for, I don't want to say the things I'm doing wrong, but the ways that I want to grow. I'm always looking at like, oh, there's this part of me showing up. And I think, that's something I want to do better at, or that's something I want to pay more attention to, or that's something I want to evolve. But I'm not often paying attention to the divine in me.
mm,
I'm not often looking for the pure river and the moments where, like, wow, I really handled that beautifully, or I showed kindness to myself or someone else in that moment. Like, those just kind of, I don't even notice them. So, I was just reflecting on like through this whole book and all the things that I have highlighted. Usually, the stuff I have highlighted is like unconsciously, it was like, oh, there's something I'm not doing. There's something I'm not doing. There's something else I got to work on. There's something else I got to work on. But this one paragraph was like, oh, wait, there's divine in me too. And I am not those thoughts or stories or beliefs. I'm just carrying them. And sometimes those thoughts and stories and beliefs drive behavior. But
mm-hmm,
even that, like I'm just carrying it. But underneath that pollution, like the river is pure. And so for me in this last week, it was kind of like, can I balance my perception in a way that I can see the divine moments in addition to the polluted moments? I just noticed like I'm not super in tune, with.
with finding that sense of separation from the emotions in the story, which for me are the thoughts. But I mean, there is that recognition, there is that beauty of that self-study is now that ability to just simply recognize like, oh, look at how I'm not in tune, right? Look at how I am sort of not accepting the divine, or for me, in the sense that divine is just recognizing that I'm witness to this. I am not this, right? Witness to that upset. That is actually not me. And thereby, there's a story that I've created. And why have I created said story, right? Why have I created or given in to said pollution as opposed to just being that river? Right? There's being able to see that separation between my emotions and my story or that ego and me as simply witnessing, damn, look, at how upset I've gotten. Look at how angry in this moment I have gotten. And now, like, why have I bought into that? Why have I, in a sense, lost myself in that pollution as opposed to just having that ability to witness? And there is the divine conversation with ourselves, right? Because the ego is
Mm.
like, no, I'm right or I'm wrong.
Meaning that the ability or desire to look at those things is divine in and of itself.
Yes, yes, right. To recognize that, say, I'm hot. Oh, but I'm hot because of the clothes that I have on, not necessarily because I'm hot. Maybe I don't have the air conditioner on, I don't have it. So we, in a sense, associate ourselves with that word, that meaning, that story, that emotion, as opposed to stepping back and just simply recognizing that there's always a choice for me to be able to make. And it's in that Svadhyaya or that self-study, that witness, that we do that from this divine place, from this ability to separate ourselves from that moment. And it's almost in that sense that we all have that more ability to find that sense to witness than actually to find our ability to witness in the moment, right? And it could be important for us. Well, let me just go through that corruption. Let me go through that anger. Let me go through that emotion so that I can truly embrace it for what it is, right? And then there is that divine self-study, not a right or wrong that I got caught up, that I did get angry with my friends, that I did find self-frustration, or even that of what Zio was sharing, that I did cry, right? Like in that divine moment, she can go, no, this is just me crying. Unless we can stay with it. I'm not lost in the story of that emotion, because that is what would have happened, or sometimes what happens is that now we blame the other person for the fact that we are emotional or that we are upset. And there is us being egoic as opposed to, I think definitely what Zio's story teased out for me is of going like, no, no, this is just a story that came up and I felt a certain kind of way in that moment, but I'm still here. I'm still the river and not that pollution. But it takes time for us, right? That for me, this work and this practice is that I might be here with it to where it's going to take some time for me to be able to get back to the divine to witness it. And the more we can embrace it and understand it, then that window begins to shorten to where then we can start catching ourselves closer to the moment rather than letting days go by or letting months go by or letting years go by. Like I said, in my case with my ex-wife, letting 5 years go by. But sometimes we need that space. We need to take that time to be able to even separate out the pollution from the river, to separate out that story from the divine, right? We could be so caught up that I don't have the capacity to separate that out right now. This is my work, right? The
Yeah.
lovely thing I love about this practice is that it asks us to give ourselves grace, right? Not to be upset with ourselves for the fact that we're human, but embrace the fact that we're human so that we can now find that divine that's within.
When I think that's the second part. I really appreciate what you were saying about like just doing that self-study is is divine in and of itself. And the second part of what I noticed is how easy it is for me to see all of the ways I'm not living any of this. I can go chapter by chapter and I look at all the stuff I highlighted out. Oh, not doing that, not doing that, not doing that. Need to work on this, not doing that. Oh, got to work on that. Oh, yeah, I need it. But can I also be as observant to the moments when, like what Seal was just saying, like how beautifully she handled everything with her sister. Like, can I also pay attention to those moments when there is that clarity, or there is that moment of the river being pure and flowing and being like, oh, look what look what I did. You know, look what I did in that moment. Um,
Yes.
so I noticed that too, that like my I'm more practiced in noticing one side of things than the other. So I almost wanted to make it like part of my self-study to bring that into balance.
Yeah, there's, oh, look at how I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that and whatever, because
Yeah.
the recognizing of me not is an opportunity for me too.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, here, in spite of all the things that we've shared we're each, that we each struggle with, or the things that we see in ourselves where we're like, oh, look at what I just did. You know, we're here
Hmm.
and we're in these conversations and we're showing up and we're doing this work and we're reading this book and we're pouring our hearts into it and being vulnerable about it and getting read, week after week. And like how many, people do we know who are doing this? So I was just like, oh, I have no awareness of that part of me, or I don't acknowledge that part of me. But something about, I don't know why, like this paragraph in particular was just like,
Right.
ain't
Well,
that some shit? The
well,
divine within us, the pure river. Huh.
yes. Right. And th this is the reason why we're here in this work, because aren't we here to start cleaning our rivers?
Yeah.
We're here to start acknowledging the pollution and whatever that may be in our rivers. And now, what device or what things can I do to start putting in the river to start catching my pollution? And that's exactly what this practice is, right? It's not to say that the river doesn't get polluted, that, right? It's a big open river with these open minds, these open human beings, and shit happens. But now here we are doing this work to start cleaning it. And cleaning it means, again, we recognize now that we're polluted. Like you said, other people who are not doing it, it's because most people don't even recognize that they're actually these beautiful rivers and they just got kind of some shit floating in it. So are they going to take this time to clean it out, or are they just going to ignore it and continue to swim in the muck? Right? And that's the beauty of just recognizing, like, well, shit, this is why I'm here. And again, of recognizing the courage that she speaks about to be doing this work, right? It takes courage for me to wade in my polluted river so that I can get to the beauty that's in it, that's under it, right? Just because there's shit floating on top, don't mean that it's not beautiful underneath. And there is why we can sort of be mistaken and think that, the whole thing is polluted when most of the time, right, it's just the shit that's floating on the top or on the surface. It's not as if there's all of this stuff from in the bottom and at the top. Can I just be this beautiful skimmer now, which is what yoga is for me? It's constantly skimming because I'm constantly finding bottles and straws and paper and plastic in my river, right? And sometimes turds. Right? Not right or wrong is, isn't it great now? Because here you are, right? In our discussion, you aren't the polluted river. You're like, we're sitting here, we're like, look at this bag of stuff I got out of the river. And now let's kind of discuss it and go over it. Because now that I can understand it, now I can devise the plan to start getting the stuff out of it in the future as things fall in. Some of the beautiful things about these analogies if you will, is that they really give us an opportunity to step back and look at ourselves. Because in our lives, we're like this, looking at it. So it's like almost hard, if not impossible, to see so close up. And so here we have this opportunity to actually sit back and see that sense of separation rather than just be so caught up in it. And there is why we need the grace, because shit, who can see so clearly? Right? None of us are walking around here Jesus, right? We're practicing to get to a place to where we can be this love, be this acceptance. And that is what then has us laugh like, damn, can you believe what a horrible thing that I said or did or pretended in that time? And there's that transformation to be able to laugh at those things rather than kick our ass about those things, right? Instead of looking through the book and saying, I'm not doing this, I'm not this, like, oh, okay, look at my possibilities of what I can do. Because here is not until I embrace that stuff that I can be found, which is why we get into this final piece of it, right? Which is this surrender, right? We're not supposed to be in a place of where now I like, oh my God, can you believe all the shit that came up? Like, yeah, surrender to it, accept the facts, accept the truth of it, right? That surrender, that takes love of myself. And there is like even within the four agreements, that last one is do your best. I'm not always going to be impeccable with my word. It may take things personal. I may make assumptions, and when I do, my recognition of it now it asks that I just simply do my best with what I've found, right? And that's what this surrender is, right? When read just this from the second chapter on page 65, it says, "How often do we, like the men above, try to con life as if there is a prize waiting for us if we succeed? And when life doesn't do what we want, we throw a tantrum." Right? Just think about how many times you tell yourself you had a bad day because it didn't go the way you had planned. We can be so busy feeling cheated or victimized when life doesn't go the way we want it to that we often miss a new opportunity life is offering us in the moment. And that's what this is about, is that now that we can talk about, like, yeah, I got upset with my friends, I sort of kind of blew up on them and whatever, but ooh, there's this opportunity that I have from recognizing that. And that opportunity to recognize how, you know what, I might have cheated myself by not being upfront and saying what was real for me, right? Because rather wanted to be nice rather than kind. And in that niceness, I didn't want to cause upset with folks. And now I wind up blowing up on them more out of my sense of cheating my own self. And there is that opportunity to, ooh, thank you for that moment of anger, of frustration.
I feel like I am normally telling. Sorry, is that?
Oh, nothing. I just heard some crazy noise. I didn't know what that was.
It's like you heard a ghost. You want to check, make sure that.
Something fell, but I know what it was, so it's all good.
Okay, you scared me there. I feel like I am able to tell them, hey, I ain't feeling great. Like the whole beach day, from the beginning to the end, I'm like, I please don't rush me. I'm telling them even at the beach, my capacity just feels low, and I don't know what it is about it, but I don't know if I feel comfortable with having like a low capacity, or maybe I'm just not honoring like my body, and maybe I need to like leave the space or whatever the case may be. Um, but yeah, I feel like I do say something. But yeah, the moments that maybe I'm not saying something, it just gets, I just bite a little bit more. Maybe in that moment of time, I'm like not even realizing like my capacity is low, and maybe the understanding of it is just that, like, maybe I'm only able to understand it sometimes when I'm recognizing that I'm biting you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share this of something of where I can be overly um, in this way as an Aquarius. But I have a sense so when for me when it just don't feel right and I'm
Maybe
getting that
it's
pushback,
Aquarius. Sorry. Just
huh?
want to say, maybe it's your Virgo and Aquarius. I grew up with like Aquarius siblings. And I'm an earth sign and I was dating a Virgo. So like both of those signs are pretty like love them, but agitated agitation there.
Yeah, my dealing is like I was sharing how I would go into a yoga class and if the energy don't feel right, I'm not gonna force myself to stay. I am quick to roll my mat up and bounce. I would be hanging out with, as I share this, I'd be, um, I, I gangbanged and so dope. And I would just be like, I was always the youngest one. And I would be like, something don't feel right. I'm gonna leave the spot. And they'd be like, what? What? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna leave the spot. And I'd leave. And then later on, they'd be like, the police came and hemmed us up and gave us this hard time just as you left. And I'm like, wow, really? I hadn't recognized. And so sometimes there's that thing of where we feel like we need to stay when our bodies, right, our energy, our short capacity is telling us, you need to get the hell on up out of there. I never forget this time. It's just always interesting. I share these stories. But like, we was in this car and the police like turned around and started following us. So I told Sleepy like to just turn and park in this motel that we knew, and so we like whipped and turned and parked in this motel and jumped out and went inside because we knew the manager who was a smoker, so he was gonna let us in and hang out. And so we hung out for a minute and let some time pass. And so Sleepy was like, all right, let's go, let's head back out. I was like, no, man, I'm not getting back in that car. The police was just looking at us. And he was like, man, you just being scared and get like, I'm the young one. Sleepy was probably like 4 years older and my cousin B was 2 years older. And I just was like, no, man, I'm not getting back in that car. I just know. And they are like pressuring me to get back in. I was like, no, I'm gonna walk back to mama's house, like to my grandma's house, because it was just across from the Exposition Park at the time. And so B just finally was like, you know what? I'm gonna walk with Nay. I'm gonna walk with him and whatever. And so Sleepy gave us his dope and everything. And so we headed out on foot. And so as we head out on foot, Sleepy jumps back in the car and he heads up. And as soon as he hit Figueroa, the police like came from every street. At least about 20 cars rolled on him. And we walking, along the street like, oh shit. And so we took our dope, threw it out. By the time we made it back home, um, he had called and whatever from the police, and they had whooped his ass. They had ripped his earring out. They whooped his ass. So anyway, the story was that he had bought that car from a smoker and the smoker had carjacked some old lady for that car, and so the police had it out as a stolen car and was looking for it, and so they took it in the sense that Sleepy or that we, had carjacked this woman, and so they took it out on him. And I say that in the sense that for me, that was as that young person that listening to myself and not just staying has always been this thing for me that has paid off in different ways that I didn't completely understand. And in times, it sort of pisses some folks off. Like, I've been in relationships where I'm like, well, maybe we shouldn't be together. That's just the way of it, right? If there's some stress or whatever about it, then I'm quick to just sort of kind of let go. I don't believe in holding on in that way. And that's why I say that could be sort of like the Aquarius aspect in me. But it's always been to my benefit to just let go, right? Rather than hold on. And I even share that from a lesson in snowboarding. It's important to fall. Don't try and hold on and stay up because that's how you're gonna break your neck. Right? You just like going down the mountain and you trying to stay up and you out of control. Sometimes, right, that your body is telling you leave, right? Like this just ain't right the right time. It ain't got nothing to do with you. Right. Just in all honesty, my friends, this is just what my gut is telling me. And now let me honor that and go someplace to rest, go someplace to be me. Right. There's sometimes it's just not anything I can say. It just ain't the time for me to be around y'all. Just my little gangbang story. But like I said, I'm so happy I didn't catch that beat down from I can't tell you how many cops had to have rolled on Sleepy that night. Uh, and he spent that time in jail. Just these interesting things that I found myself in. There is, I think, in a sense of the importance of learning to listen to ourselves, learning to honor ourselves, and not sacrificing that for someone else. Right. I never mean anyone any disrespect, but there's always um, this fierce sense of, and I think also of being an only child of where I've never wanted to sacrifice myself for another person. And I sort of even did that in my marriage of where I did hold on longer than I should, and that wind up causing me more upset in that sense of just recognizing that, relationships are in cycles. They're not these straight lines or these things and whatever. And so, right, there's times that we need to re-up within a relationship. And that means that, you know what? Let me start over and I'll be back. I'll come back to you. Just in the sense of that share, right? And I think this is what surrender really brings up to me is that I'm quick to surrender to just simply what is, right? What is this shit don't feel right. No right or wrong. And I think there is um, sort of that ego aspect of it is where I'd rather go as if this pollution is a part of me than surrender to the fact that, it is actually not. And let me separate myself out, right? Let me go deeper in the river as opposed to continue to sit here and float in all this crap. Let me go underneath it. Let me get away from it, or even let me get in a boat as opposed to swimming in it. And just what comes up for me in that share. So thank you, Miriam. I think there is sort of that recognizing of as we start digging deep, we recognize like I did say what I need to say. I did sort of go through these things. Okay, so I've done X, Y, so what else could I have done? Right? This is like taking inventory of what this self-study allows us to do. Because how many times have we kept trying to do that same thing over and over and it didn't serve us? And then it wasn't until we surrendered or we walked away. And then we came back and was like, oh, damn, I kept trying that same thing. And now that new possibility came in, that thing that I hadn't tried before, or I didn't even know what was possible. When I can step away, or again, like surrender, now I have that new opportunity that's before me. And this is when our exes show up, right? When once you've let go and you're like, oh, I'm on to the next one. Now suddenly that person that we was asking to come back, that's when they come and knock on our door because here is that test, right? Am I gonna go back to that old way? Or am I going to actually get into who I am now that I have surrendered? And we constantly get tested in that. I know damn well. That's why I say in that 5 years of once I was like now ready to move on and discover new friendships, and I'd be goddamned if at the end of that fifth year I did not get that phone call. And luckily I had a good enough friend that was sitting with me that I can sort of share what was going on. And I could go like, wow, like look at how, this shit divinely works on how stuff sort of swings back around. And that was my new opportunity to sit and furnish a new relationship with my ex and not give in to that old way that we once were. It's- Sharing these stories. And so, go ahead.
I wanted to say thank you for your share about just like listening to what your inner body, inner mind is saying. Um, just during the beach day, I we had friends there that were way over inebriated. Um, like one of the older coworkers, black guy, big, brought his girl and his son. One moment he's out there with his child and in the water, and I'm like, oh, photo worthy, video worthy. And the next moment, he's having this like intense, heated conversation with another coworker, and I go over there, right? Because I'm like, drama, like let me see what's going on, or just what's going on, and like bro's one of eye was this way, the other one was this way, and I'm just like, what is going on, to the point where he just could not even get up. And because my capacity was so low, I'm like, everything was just so loud, but I was still trying to tend to this person and make sure they were okay. And um I've been told multiple times to like choose yourself, choose yourself. And I just feel like that has been such a lesson that I've been having to take up because of the way that I grew up. Like I watched my dad is 80, 89. Like I watched him for years and years be in an abusive relationship, one that was abusive towards him and he was abusive towards them. Kept choosing this person over and over and over again. Watched my grandma, thank God for her, but I watched her also um, raise everybody in the family and let them live there. And I was also raised to kind of like, go out and make a name for yourself, but come back and share that with the family. And while like saying that all out doesn't sound bad, but when or it doesn't sound like negative, but when that's all I'm like used to seeing, then yeah, I have been in situations where when I let somebody in, it was difficult to let them go. Which is why I have it tatted, let it happen, let it go. And which is why I've been practicing that in my romantic relationships. And also one of the reasons why, I kind of have some escape behavior now. Like I told you guys I went home, after like a year and a half or 2 years. Um, so now it feels like still in so many different ways I'm struggling, or I'm having to see that I'm struggling with being close to people, but also like letting people go.
Mhm.
Um, and or my energy just unconsciously just grabbing at other people's mess. Like if it's my friends, either I'm super agitated by it or I want to help. Um, yeah, I don't know where to go with that, but I'm just going to continue to monitor it.
Yeah, there's nothing to help with people. That's their journey. And that can be the hard thing. Like, oh,
You
this
sound
is
like
exact. What'd you say?
I said, you sound like my therapist.
Right? It's like that's their drama. That's exactly what they need. There's some unfinished business that they have. And that's kind of in a sense of why we get burned because we've stepped into somebody else's fire. Zia.
I have a question because, like Miriam, similar, right? I think I don't know if it's my life is now calm And I like, is it attracting? Like, you want to fix other people's problems? Like, why is that like the natural thing you gravitate to towards doing? Like, I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I totally understand what Miriam's saying. Like, I can resonate with that a lot. But it's why are these people attracted to me, right? Like, why are people sharing their stuff with me? And sometimes I don't want to hear it, but now I'm in it and I'm an empath. So now I'm genuinely invested in care. And like, why? Why do we attract that? Like, why is that?
Ooh, because what I'll say is that we have similar things going on, and which is why we're doing this work. And so now, in a sense, there is um, we see ourselves in these other people. We see our own dramas, in a sense, kind of play out now as we are now. What we were speaking about before, of when you sort of um, become that river and not that pollution, you now see the pollution that's all around you in other people's rivers and other streams. And the thing that we may start getting into is that we think that it's wrong for people to have pollution. And now that we're doing something about it, we expect other people to be doing something about it. Right. And so it's like, hey, you got that bottle and shit, them turds floating in your water and whatever. And they're like, what? Huh? Right. But if somebody comes to us and they're like, hey, can you help me with this pollution? There's that opportunity for us to do something about it. But if we just now, because and this is truly what happens, is that now you start seeing the pollution that's in all of these damn rivers. You start seeing it so clear for other people that we think that there's something for us to do. When you have to recognize the difference between us and them is that we've decided to do something about the pollution. They have not. And a lot of people think that they are that pollution. And so when you go try and clean up somebody else's river, they're like, hey, why are you touching me? Why are you doing this to me? Right? You're like, but that's not you. We're like, well, who are you to tell me who the hell I am? Excuse me. And there is that pushback we may get, right? We have to again, why the matrix is so important. This metaphor of this blue and red pill is so important because you have to give somebody that opportunity. You have to see if they're ready to be initiated in this work. You just walk up and say, hey, you caught up in the matrix. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? You crazy? You're talking about this matrix, right? They have to be seekers. If not, and truly, why are we so attracted to it? Because this is what we want. We want to be around people who are also seekers, right? And all of us are here initiated because we've decided to take the red pill. Right. For me, I have to give that philosophy talk in the beginning before we go through these yamas and niyamas so that you understand that this is your choice that you're making. Right. Before we get into stirring up your shit in the river, right? Because that's the thing of why I say over and over again, thank you and I love you and I appreciate your courage because I have no illusions about the fact that this ain't covering up the shit. This is having to disturb it. And if you've ever had a dog, right, or an animal, you know that while it's sitting there, it's fine. But the minute you go to pick it up and clean it up, then that shit is like, oh my God. But that's why we have to recognize that we are in the midst of cleaning up this muck and take that responsibility. So, most people don't want to have it disturbed. And then you go disturb it and it starts stinking, they're going to blame you. So, right, we're attracted to this. I want more people who want to have this dialogue, who want to get in it. I just have to start recognizing who is taking the red pill and who is taking the blue pill. And a drunk fool on the beach, that's a blue fool all day. Right? Because that's the same thing with my ex, right? She blue all day. And my frustration is thinking that she's taking the red pill and I can now have this conversation with her. When no, no, damn, she intoxicated. She's not of a rational mind, right? The same thing. How dare you sit up there and try and have a rational conversation with a baby? They like goo goo ga.
Ooh, yeah, you just made me realize I reached out to him and I'm like, essentially, you did a bad work session. When is your best days? I need to go stop. Will somebody stop me? Woo!
Real talk, like real talk. But here we are in this moment, able to laugh at it, right? Able to start, oh, damn, look at the pollution I still have, if you will, of even trying to clean up somebody else's river when you pull a bottle out and shit when muck is falling in it all the time. They ain't did anything to be cleaning it up. So we're wasting our times trying to clean up rivers that are just constantly being polluted. You have to have that willingness, that grace, that courage to be facing it over and over again. And that courage to go, that's for them to find. There's no right or wrong in it, right? Hopefully, um, they catch it before the river gets dammed, right? And the river that's dammed, it gets backed up, it starts overflowing on the sides, and that's someone's deep sickness, right? When we start talking about liver issues and stuff like that, that's because they haven't been doing the work that they've needed to.
Isn't there a strike out in Philadelphia for the sanitation workers? I think there is.
I don't know. I'm West Side, and then I don't watch the news in that way.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about so many different so much symbolism around being backed up, whether it's emotionally or just in our society.
We damn sure backed up in our society. And a lot of times, again, that being backed up is what causes a revolution, is what causes us to have to say, you know what? I can't keep fucking around. I need to really clean my river, right? This is sort of the blessing of this muck, if you will, that it gets loud enough to where people just recognize that there's something they have to do. If not, then you get an opportunity to start all over again because the river may have to go away. Jessica?
Yeah, I was just like, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I feel like that's what happened to me with corporate life, where I was just like, this is toxic as fuck. This is polluted as hell. I can't breathe. I'm suffocating. My health is deteriorating. My body is breaking down.
Hmm. Yes, there is, again, from the color purple, God's trying to tell us something. And once we finally listen and give in, once we surrender to that truth, we can find a new way forward, right? It may feel crazy because now I have to dredge a new channel to allow this water to follow, but this is what I'm here for. Right? This is what my life is about. I'm here to create new pathways for myself, not keep trying to go down this same damn river, but I might need to redirect it. And there's my problem. And it's not until I actually put it out there that I do it, right? And um, this blurb really sort of speaks to it, right? The jewel of surrender presupposes that there is a divine force at work in our lives. Ultimately, this guideline invites us to surrender our egos, open our hearts, and accept the higher purpose of our being, right? We can spend so much time trying to avoid what is that we get to a point that there's no more avoiding. I've tried it this way, I've tried it that way, and Jessica definitely shared, well, I switched jobs. I tried to do it this way, and I tried to do it that way, and then I had to recognize, you know what? I just finally had to surrender and open my heart and jump ship, right? Just get the hell on up out of Dodge. Yeah, I believe I better be. It's this automatic thing. Yeah, it says recording. That's how, yes. Um, and 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 this is really the summation of this, right? Like all of this leads to this place of this surrender. This is why it really gets real as we get into these final niyamas, right? This burn, this inner fire that comes up as we're really starting to get into this practice, because you're basically now really beginning to get to this place of where you've been practicing and this stuff builds up, so that now we can really be in that self-study. We can really be checking out what the hell is floating in my river, what the hell is going on with me, so that we can get to times to recognize, no shit, I'm just crying. There's no reason to shut down and whatever. Now I have the awareness within me to recognize, no, this is just a story that's come up in me. I'm not trying to shut down here. There's nothing wrong. This is just simply what's going on with me. And now to get to this point of getting the jewel of this surrender, right? If you don't have anything to surrender to, then you aren't really doing this work. If nothing has come up from this observation that we've gone through after you've been restraining all this time, then something ain't right with you, right? You ain't a human being. There's some shit we should be able to now see within our lives, which is the whole point of this practice. I didn't do all this because I'm perfect. I did all this because I'm recognizing something is going on. And in that recognition, oh, now I just get to surrender to it. And if you truly like surrender to it, it becomes something funny. Just as what Miriam was able to laugh at, and go, shit, look at how I reached out to this fool. And I'm still trying to be in this. Now we can start seeing ourselves in this clear way. And not even in the sense to say ourselves, but when you're looking from this divine place, it's real funny. Right? But when you're caught up in the muck, it's like, what the hell is going on? And there's the point of being divine, is that now it winds up being funny rather than hurtful.
I feel like I might have brought something like this up in our last call. And if I did, I'm sorry, but I need to hear it again. Part of what is hard for me is discerning between delusion and divine,
Mm.
particularly when, for the most part, I'm in this work alone and
Mm.
I can't always get clear within myself. Like, where is this coming from? Is it coming from my highest level discernment, my highest level of clarity, my purest way of seeing myself?
Now, the one thing I'm gonna say is that this is why I do it all over and over again, because I have to keep hearing it over and over again. There's never anything to have to apologize for in that sense, because this is sort of the point of this, is that it's not until we keep getting it layered and layered and layered that it could begin to start making sense for us, if you will. And this question is so good in the sense that it brings us back to that this is the point of this emotional guidance system, is that, like, well, how do I find myself and whatever, that first we have to recognize that our emotions are the delusion. My anger is the delusion. My frustration is a delusion. My happiness is the delusion. My calm is that spiritual self, is that divine self. And so when I can't find calm in something, that's where I'm deluded.
Mm.
That's where I'm time traveling. And so, right, why there's that guidance system, because it could be so easy or so hard, right, to discern between the jealousy, hatred, rage, revenge, anger, discouragement, blame, worry, doubt, disappointment, overwhelm, frustration, boredom, even the subtleness of pessimism, right? We think, oh, I'm just being, that's still a delusion. I had to use that pessimism that I have to really start teasing this out. And even in the sense of that hopefulness is a delusion because I'm hopeful as opposed to, again, for me, that contentment sits in the middle because there's that calm. If I'm able to be content, now I can freely look at what is. But if I'm hopeful, then I'm really sort of ignoring what is, right? If I'm optimistic, then again, I'm ignoring what is, right? If I'm positive in my expectation, again, because all that's future shit. How am I right now in this moment? And can I really stop and sit with this? This is why there is that practice of meditation, because we're trying to sit with what is, right? Many times we think that we're meditating to be calm, right? We're meditating so we can get to a place to eventually be calm. But I'm meditating so I can sit with what is. And things are going to stir up, things are going to come to the surface. And there's where I can get that clarity, right? Because this is what we do in this practice is that we have these discussions so I can get it out, up and out, right? That analogy that I use for the last emperor to say, like, this is an opportunity for us to shit. And so as we now sit with this shit, now I can see what's in my diet, what it is I'm digesting and I'm putting in my system. Because if we don't own it and take that whatever, then we're going to constantly have the runs or be constipated, right? So that's oh shit, I'm not calm. Here's that work I need to do. But that's any of my emotions means I'm time traveling and I'm not present. That's my answer, in a sense, to how we start discerning between what is the
You
delusion
talking to
and
me?
what is the reality.
What would you do? Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry, sorry. That's boo.
Hello.
Sorry.
You
Hungry. I'm trying to feed her.
you
Sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't muted.
you know you're always
Eric's like,
welcome
I'm
to sit in.
hungry.
We hear so much about you.
It's
Not in a
getting
bad
dark out
way.
here too. Oh, he said, well, we hear so much about you.
In a good way though.
He said in a good way though. Yeah, give me one sec.
Get that food, get that food. I used to have people cook for me. But I'm hearing one day I might get some bruschetta. And so I think that's a great place, right? In the sense that she breaks down this surrender, right? Because this here is the point I think to really get into what Jessica was sort of bringing up here. I did stop sharing. I just want to make sure is that here are the ways for us to get into the surrender. If I can get back to my notes, um, is that one she talks about taming our over. Oh no, shit! I am in a whole wrong thing. She talks about releasing, right? Engaging, accepting, and this devotion that we bring to this sense of surrendering, right? That releasing, as I read the blurb, because I don't have my regular book with everything underlined, but she says, as we learn to stop fighting life, we can skillfully begin to, or we can begin to act skillfully. And this is just the blurb that's on page 168. I'm going to read this paragraph that it's around. She said, when my granddaughter Ashley was a toddler, I used to tell her to be careful. In her delightful innocence, she mixed up the ending and would always cheerfully reply, be carefree. I thought this was cute and began to playfully mimic her, but I noticed something important as I shifted my language. I noticed that being careful created tightness in me. Fear and rigidity accompanied these words. I also noticed that speaking the words be carefree brought an immediate feeling of expansion and opened me to the adventure of my life. I was ready to trust the moment, right? And trusting in the sense of what we were discussing in the sense of Miriam is like, let me be carefree. Be carefree enough to recognize, like, that was a beautiful moment, and now it is not. So let me skip my ass on up out of here, right? That's in the sense of what it is to be lighthearted, that we can be lighthearted enough that we can own what is in the moment instead of deluding ourselves to say that there's something to be fixed, that there's something wrong in the world, that people shouldn't be going through things. Right? What we are learning here right now in our practice, that there's a gratitude that we can have for the fact that we're going through something. Because that thing is going to teach me something. And when I embrace it, then it's going to deposit me on the other side of it. If I reject it, then it's going to be right there stinking up my face, right? All up in my nostrils, all up in my ears, making my eyes water, and all of that. And so, can I be carefree enough to recognize this ain't for me, right? I don't want to be tight. I don't want to be rigid. I don't want to be in all of that craziness, if you will. But first, let me recognize what doing this, what, involving myself in this stuff is actually getting me, right? Have you ever fixed it for someone? There becomes that great question, right? And well, right when you recognize, like, no, actually, shit, I ain't never fixed anything. A big kick in the ass for me was the first time I heard, did your worrying ever correct anything? And I had to go, shit, no, all I had was worry. So worrying and like trying to fix is never going to get us what it is that we think. Acceptance, love will. Um, and so like in the sense of her talking about engaging, there's no blurb. I'm just read this last paragraph that's on page one. It starts on page 170, ends on page 171. Engagement with the moment cost Dietrich Bonhoeffer his life. With Brooks, it demanded his courage. With others, such as William Wilberforce, whose passion and tireless efforts ended the British slave trade, surrender demanded his perseverance, right? And so this is saying that um, in this backwards engagement, that it can actually kill us in the sense of trying to involve ourselves in things that we will take as wrong or even take as right. We need the sense to fix it, but in the sense to surrender to it, to just say that this is simply what it is, now that can give us this different perspective of it that's going to allow us to now really go at it differently, right? History is full of great people who surrender to the hardships and challenges of their time and engage those hardships with creativity and skill. These inspirational people understood that surrender meant giving themselves to a higher purpose because that was what life asked of them. These people did not start out great. Like you and I, they were ordinary people, but with each challenge life presented them, rather than shrink away, they grew themselves up to meet the moment skillfully. And so that again, that surrender meant that shit, I had to own what it is. I had to accept what it is. And it's only in that moment that I can maybe in the case to say for Miriam of give that person an opportunity to take the red pill or blue pill. Do you want to do something about it or not? And when they say not, I'm free. When they say I do, I'm free to have the discussion that I want to have. Right? This, again, lesson that I had, I shared some shit with someone and they like blocked me and cut me off and ain't spoke to me to this day. Right? And so that was a valuable lesson for me to learn to offer somebody the opportunity. Right? That's why I say somebody called me. I'm like, hey, you know who you speaking to? You got 15 minutes. If you want to vent, I'm down, right? And after that 15 minutes, if you want to do something about it, great. If not, then I'm no longer down. But I believe in the sense of you being my friend, I'll give you an opportunity to vent, right? But I'm also going to give you the opportunity for the red pill or the blue pill. But I am not going to sacrifice myself for your bullshit, right? For and what Jessica said, I'm not going to sacrifice my calm for your delusion because this is what it means that you're blaming somebody else for your own upset. Can you believe it? Yes. I can believe it because I too ask for bullshit. Right? And that gets us into that accepting. Right. Surrender. This the blurb that's on page 172. Surrender asks us to be strong enough to engage each moment with integrity while being soft enough to flow with the current of life. Right. And that integrity is just again saying this is what is. Life has to have ups and downs. Muck needs to be, right? And so in that, now I can be soft enough to honor that person simply where they are and also honor myself of where I am, right? I'm carefree. And in that being carefree, I care enough to have this discussion to help you get to being carefree. But I'm not crazy enough to put my care down for the sake of caring for you. Right? And that caring for someone who don't want to take ownership, now that means I've got to take on that emotional transference. They want me to be upset with them. They want me to be rigid and frustrated with them. And so do I love myself enough to stay in this flow and offer somebody an opportunity to join me? Or am I going to put my sense of self, my sense of calm down to get into the rapid waters, right? This is in a sense of what it means to be in that acceptance of what is, to be in that true love of what is. I love you enough to let you enjoy the roaring rapids on your own. I love myself enough not to engage in that way, right? That there is that surrendering again to what is, and that's what that acceptance is, which for me, it brings me to why I'm devoted to this practice, right? And this is page 173 of the blurb. Ishvara Pranidhana is the surrender. I'm reading that same thing that I already read. I'm going to just close out this final chapter. As we grow ourselves into the fullness of what this jewel has to teach us, we begin to understand the magnanimity. Ooh, I think I got through it. Of what guides, protects, nourishes, and cares for us. We begin to understand that there is something much greater which is doing us. And we begin to give all of our actions as well as the fruits of our actions into the arms of the divine. Surrender is knowing ourselves to be part of this divine oneness and then giving ourselves over to this greater whole. We find the process that we do not lose ourselves, but instead become part of this greatness itself, right? And it's in that devotion that there is this divine work going on that we don't have to feel guilty for allowing somebody to go through whatever obstacle is in front of them, right? And so this is in a sense of our not accepting this divine, that we, for me again, become blasphemous because we have this great God pretense, and that God pretense is that I can correct the world. I can change the world, right? That the world ain't supposed to be this. God must have made a mistake. But when I say, you know what? No, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Those who have been initiated in this work understands what that means. Those who have not are going to say, how dare you say, that I'm getting this thing. And so this is why it becomes important for us to recognize those initiated, right? Those who've taken the red pill, those who are seekers, and those who are not. If we love enough, then we can be sharing from this humble and this honest way, which I think was that great share that Zio gave was, you know what, I can share that this is just what's going on in me. And now find the words to be able to bring your sister back into a difficult conversation that's causing emotional upset, but that's fine, right? That's just what it is. We're wading through this roaring rapid. But if you're down enough, come back in and join me because I'm fine. I'm okay. Don't take my tears as this bad thing. Just see me as this human being. And being in that, right? A lot of times, people's crying or people's emotions, we become afraid because we think they're going to blame us for them. But when we can take ownership of them, now that makes them take ownership of their frustration. And now we can meet somewhere in the middle. Right? This is what this surrender is that everything is fine, right? And the thing I think can be sort of taken from a misunderstanding of God being good all the time. We dropped out again, right? God being good all the time means that things are happening exactly the way they need to for someone, right? I was having this discussion about health. And it's in a sense that if that I am diseased for a reason, if I can stop and take ownership of that, then I'm going to catch what it is that I'm doing. That's surrendering to what I'm doing rather than blaming other folks. And sort of doctors, people within this colonized view, they are quick to want to blame and now just give us these quick fixes rather than help us take ownership of our shit. How would it be if my doctor told me, how about you really look at your diet instead of coming to me to be getting all these pills? Right? Because fasting, what I've recognized that cutting out a lot of what I've been putting in me has helped heal this torn meniscus, these craziness that's going on in my joint, my high blood pressure, right? The breaking out that I might be experiencing in my skin. I've really got to see, like, damn, look how much ass kicking of myself I've been doing. And there is again that sense to surrender to God because there's a reason why this shit is happening. And everybody ain't courageous enough to take on that fact.
There's two things that really stand out for me about what you're saying. Um, One is that, and I think she even said it somewhere in here in one of the blurbs that we highlighted or something, like all of this begins with the presupposition that there is a divine force at work. So,
Yes.
which in Western culture, meritocracy, BS, like it's so individualistic. My efforts, my work, my merit is what is the driving force. So I think
Yes.
that first is the fundamental thing that has to be there for any of this. And then the second piece about it is like what you were saying about basically like everything is exactly what it's supposed to be. And we're all getting what we need. There are some things that are there are times where it's a lot easier for me to come to that conclusion or to like accept that than others. So, okay, that job didn't work out. I spoke up and got forced out of the company, okay, that might only take me a year or 2 years to get to like, oh, I see what was going on. I wasn't really happy there anyway, and it was making me sick. And because I wasn't acknowledging my truth, like everything blowing up was actually, a course correction. But then it's like when I have, and I'm not even going to take like the really hard stuff like war and genocide and homophobia, transphobia, racism. Like I'm not even going to take that stuff. I'll just take like I have a friend who, waited her whole life to get married, finally found a partner, um, in her 40s, had two little girls, and now at 48 is in hospice and is dying of terminal cancer and has two little girls, 7 and 9, who are going to lose their mom. A lot harder to get my brain around how that family is getting exactly what they need, how those little girls are getting exactly what they need. Um, so I think when I can see how my own inability to confront my truth kept me stuck in suffering, it's a lot easier for me to get there than when we're talking about innocence, you know, when
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about either on an individual level, a systemic level, a global level, injustice and all the forms that it takes. These two little girls, like the injustice of that, or any of the other systemic, national, global injustices we could talk about, where human lives are at stake and are being harmed. Um, that's a lot harder to be like, oh, they're just getting what they need.
This is in the sense of why we're not supposed to judge, right? Because I could never speak this to anybody else because I've never been in your shoes. I've never been in that life, 7 days or 24 hours with it, or 7 days a week, 24 hours in a day. So we don't necessarily know, right? But we can understand how control, how fear, how us holding on can create suffering. And that suffering is pointing out control that's happening, fear that's happening, all of these things that don't allow the water to flow. Because this is why I think this carefree aspect, this water aspect, can be so important because water does not necessarily care about the obstacles. It builds up and then it changes course. It does what it needs to do. But we as human beings try and hold on. And in that holding on, we can hold on too long. And this is my point about talking about snowboarding, that even though it's such a separate analogy, but holding on rather than me just surrendering and laying out and falling means that I can literally lose my life. If I'm going down the mountain and I've lost all control and I'm still trying to stay up on that board, I could smash my head against the wall, the brick, the tree, the right Sonny Bono in a sense. It's not looking at it from this sense of right or wrong, but my father's death redirects my path as a father, as a husband. That now I wind up seeing the importance of being in my marriage, of having that relationship, and now being there for my kids. My father living could have been me just wanting to just take off and not necessarily be a part of their lives, right? My uncle who just turned 61, big time dope dealer when we were young in the 80s and whatever, and he's going through all these relationships and have these kids that are all over the place. And he's sitting there with me now at 61 and sharing that now for the first time in his life, he gets that sense to sacrifice. To now, for the first time, he's been married to a woman and lived with kids and begin to raise them. And now really is able to reflect in the sense of his selfishness and his holding on to that ego and what it was costing him. Now, I just share all these things to say that I am not wounded or lesser than because I lost my father when I was 5 years old. Owning it means that now I take it more serious. And this is sort of the thing of where it's like, oh, but they're innocent. Shit, aren't we all? The point again about the river, we are all divine in that clear river. But when we mistake that we are, in a sense, that pollution, then we can lack the understanding of why it exists, why it happens there, right? If I can say that has been that hardest thing for me to wrap my head around, right? Of other people suffering, of other great injustices that I see in the world. But the more I look at it, the more I see the control, and like, not to really pick on someone, but what kind of life is Lindsey Graham living in the denial of his true self? Those who persecute gays are usually those who are closeted themselves and now suffering, and they're more upset about somebody's freedom and their lack thereof. And so you see all these people again within the society of how deluded we are around sex. Like as a man, I had to really recognize, like, shit, I've never really understood the importance of what this actually meant. Just to take it in the sense of this fun act, of this thing to do. Am I not truly honoring the importance of companionship, of connection, of life, if you will? And we damn sure as a society are not really surrendering to what this is. And so we see the pollution that's happening all around us. The fundamentalism of Judaism and Islam that is causing this war, right? That control that people are living under. And unfortunately, it's taken um, this level of nastiness, right? Just other shit, if I can say, for us to really start having to maybe now start looking at religion differently. There's a discussion on Israel and things and religion and identity that's happening on this greater scale that could not happen before, right? The sense to be anti-Semitic because you're against supremacy, the level of control that they've wielded that now interweaves all of our cultural understandings, whether Catholic, whether Baptist, whether whatever it is our religion is, and whatever, now we can start seeing how tied to the dogma we are, and now have a greater capacity to start pushing and speaking to the spiritual aspect rather than a dogmatic aspect, to really start looking to see how there is this sin of rejection of what is that's really permeating all of these things we may have a hard time getting our heads around. And I say that in the ultimate compassion because my discussions with my Jehovah Witness friend, I would say to give other people an opportunity to share or speak, was I told him that the reason why I can't take the Bible as the word of God because there's a passage that says God commanded the murder of women and children, for them to go back and simply take this land, that you sitting here as an individual telling me that it is divine for people to go out and kill the innocent, that's problematic for me. And I use that as a wedge of anybody who's going to come at me to try and prove that the Bible is perfect. And I say, well, you explain to me how that's love. And I have not had one person yet able to explain that in a sense that made sense. Oh, well, they're not human. Is that what you're trying to tell me? That people have a whatever, and here is these things that really need to be confronted in what many of us have accepted as the gospel, right? I can see the control that even black folks play in what's happening in Israel by supporting this misguided notion of religion. And this is unfortunately sort of what happens in our dis-ease as these things come up, that people have an opportunity to see how they've been in resistance. And some of us will still hold on to that resistance. But my faith and my devotion that this is divine is this is why I don't believe that this is it, that everything is cyclical and she's going to have an opportunity to get that lesson all over again. I don't see her life ending. I see this time, in the sense, this cycle ending, and she'll be back as another innocent individual. Of what I've seen of my own family who has died, my aunt was the sweetest individual that you would ever meet. Everyone loved her, and she died at 26 years old. And I say that because there is me of trying to wrap my head around how such a sweet and loving person could die. But that was me thinking that death is wrong and not a part of this cycle. I can tell you that living a long life can be a deep suffering. And we think living a long life is good. But how many old people do you see are rigid and angry and upset and continuing on with this and living in basically a hell on earth? When we are done with this, there is no suffering because I don't have this duality anymore. There's no reason for pain. There's no reason for no up down. I get to be a part of the all. I get to be a part of the divine. And this can really more play out in our own mortality of where we're afraid of death. We're afraid of the end, as opposed to, should I'll be cool when I get to my completion. But that takes having to go through this and go through this and go through this and go through this and go through this. Right? I don't take that piece lightly whatsoever. And I'll shut my mouth right there. but why our spiritual practice can be so important because Krishna tells Arjuna in the Gita, because Arjuna is despondent. He don't want to fight his family. He don't want to get involved in this war. And Krishna is trying to explain to him, like, dude, you're deluded here because you think that that's your family and you don't see them as actual demons, right? In the sense of that demonic sense of these are people who believe that they are the pollution and thereby this is how they're acting and how they're being. It is our duty to go at the divine in them, to speak to the divine in them, right? Like if I see a sick person, I'm not going to sit up there and wallow in the sickness. How can I help you laugh? How can I help you enjoy this moment? How can I help you see this as not a right or wrong, but just simply take it for what is? And if you've ever read survivor stories of cancer victims and folks like that, what they'll tell you is that it took a change of their minds, a change of their approach to life. And in that change, they've had an opportunity to find remission, to find healing, if you will. Now, if they have not taken that change, if they have not gotten that lesson, then they have to go through that cancer. And the lesson for us still here is to be able to witness what that is or what that was. Somebody's death can teach me how to live. But if I take it as this wrong, then it's going to teach me how to die. It's going to teach me how to suffer because here I am holding on to it as this wrong thing. And now, am I not suffering because I'm looking at their death as wrong? And I can tell you that as many family as I have had pass away, I have suffered a lot in rejecting them being gone. I've put myself through hell in wanting to bring them back. And all I did was stop my living because maybe I should go hang out with those kids who may lose their mother. Maybe I should go and live that life and recognize, oh, here's an opportunity to share love and be there for them. And what reward will that give me to be in their lives as opposed to see them as victims? Just in the sense of what comes up for me and what always gives us an opportunity for life and for love is to now go and stand in and help and be a part of something. Because if I surrender to it as divine, then I'm going to be involved. I'm going to get into the war. I'm going to get into the fight. And being in that war, in that fight is a metaphor. It means that let me not have them just be by themselves. How many men really stood up when my pops died and wanted to be a part of my life? And to this day, his best friend is a part of my life. I'm so thankful for that. So thankful for him now, wanting to now get involved and be in my life in that way. And so, sure, there were things that I missed out on, but how many things did I gain? Just in the realness of the surrender. I never want to take it for granted of the difficulties of this work again, of what it may be like to have to confront our own mortalities, our own sense of what this is. And if you're taking your life as this is all there is, then you're being the pollution and not that divine water. I'd much rather be the water and help people deal with death in the way that I've had to deal with death, of accepting it, of surrendering to it, of making the best out of what is. That's all I can do. And that's how I bring them back in my life. My cousin lives through this work that I do. My grandmother lives through this work that I do. My Aunt Ingrid lives through this work that I do. They aren't gone. They live through me as this divine water, as they're that divine water. All right, off my soapbox. You're gonna have me start up again. All right, then that might be a mic drop. Yeah, as uh, like to point out and whatever, like we're past time in that sense, and so um, in that, I think that homework, as I will be sharing the questions. I know I've been a little whatever. I've gotten into this training, and so I've kind of dropped the ball on giving out the questions in that homework in that sense. But the homework is to really take on things like this within your own life, though. I can't understand it from somebody else's life because I'm not in that circle. I'm not in there. But what things are you struggling to surrender to? And can you really take it on in the sense of surrendering means recognizing that I just not might not be I might not be ready right now, but I get that there's work of me needing to really kind of go at whatever this blockage is in my life, whatever this muck is that I've been able to tease out, that here is my work of now surrendering means I go all the way back to ahimsa. I've got this obstacle. I've got this difficulty. Let me start all over again with this difficulty I have. And let me go back to being nonviolent with myself with it. Let me go back to finding what is my truth or lack thereof with it. Let me go back to see where I'm stealing, right? Where I am in excess or where I am attached. And now, as I've taken it through restraining myself with it, now what can I purify? Now, where can I find calm or not find calm? Where is this inner fire taking me to again? And let me be back into this self study. I take this through cycles, right? There is no magic pill, no doctor, no therapist in the way to say, just take this or just have this and now the answer will come. My sense as this practitioner of yoga, practitioner of spirituality, practitioner of this sacred feminine is to know that I have to keep taking it through the washer, keep going over it and over it until it becomes clean enough for me to be able to see clearly with. And that might mean going through a few cycles in my life with these things, right? Because how long have we been living with these things and building it up? So take this opportunity to write down the things that are still obstacles, that are still problematic, and start all over again, right? If you're able to surrender to it being this sacred thing, this divine thing, then you know I need to go back at it. And again, I speak as somebody who has had to do it in it. And as I share and say it, it took me 5 years of washing and washing and washing and washing, and sometimes catching in year one, in year two, of where I might have went, Mm. I didn't give it a full washing. I just sort of spit on it. Later, as I kept going through it, that I now start actually scrubbing it, getting more serious about it, and not be in this sort of spiritual bypass and just kind of puh. Because it takes that type of devotion to have to continuously go back at it over and over again. But I will say from my own life experience that I guarantee you, you will find something new. as you continue to wash through it. And hopefully, as we've gone through this, of where you started from to where you are now, you can see something new. You can see something a little clearer, and you can have that bit of inkling to make you want to do it again. And not in the sense of a plug to do it again with me, but yes, I will be doing it again as I set up to plan it. This next go round, I'm in talks with Walk Good to maybe do it live and in person. So I may be at Walk Good of where we'll be in this Zen room of where there's this beautiful white room in the studio, and we'll be sitting there with folks, and I'll have folks online so we can have this discussion. It is my commitment and plan to always keep doing this because it takes several washings to really sort of get at the meat of this. So as I intend this to be the mic drop, I want to say again, I love you guys in a sense, not just in this willy-nilly way, but because it takes big courage. And Zio asking, why are we attracted to this? Why are we attracted to folks in this? Because I want to be getting it for myself, and I'm looking for other people who want to be doing this washing so that my practice never ends. And I thank you for participating in this practice with me and being these brave souls to share of how you might have started off as strangers, but only family talks to each other in this way. And now this makes us family, right? This makes us these kindred spirits because we get to see ourselves in each other's eyes. And so thank you for joining and being part of my family. And I expect to see you more, right? Either in the studio, either online, even in the sense of phone calls, always know I'm here and I'm around. And if you want to talk about something, Tina will damn sure share you, and Miriam will damn sure tell you because me and Miriam would just hang out at the studio and just have these same types of dialogues, right? And this is us now doing it in this more sort of set way. So I am always available to have these conversations. I'm not gonna sit up here and okay your bullshit, but I'm damn sure down to help you scrub some stuff clean. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Ja, for being my teacher. I'm so grateful to have come across you through Tashi. Learning about your class, and yeah, I can't wait to do the same. You're a gem. Love you. And
Thank
thank you for
you.
the ladies in this class, the mujeres. Such an honor to be in class with all of y'all, brilliant women. Hope to see y'all soon. Talk to y'all soon. I'll drop my socials in the chat if y'all want to connect still.
Yeah, just wanted to say thank you as well. I individually, I know I've grown a lot and just still getting emotional because that's who I am. I know individually I learned a lot and just thanks. Part of the reason of taking this class, I struggle with male instructors and just male in the space in general. So thanks for making that experience a good one and one that will allow me to continue to be okay to listening to men. Not all men are evil. Um, yeah, so just thank you for all the gems you've dropped, and we will definitely be in contact. And thanks for you ladies too for sharing and allowing me to feel comfortable with sharing because it's the energy that comes within if it makes you feel safe or not to be able to allow myself to share. And when you do share, I end up learning more about myself within that. So just thank you for that journey and allowing me to experience each and every one of you.
It's a race to the button. And now y'all hold it back. I saw both of y'all reaching at the same time. Tina, Jessica, nothing to say, Tina?
I am happy to hear that you'll be doing this again and that there might be a live component to it, um, that would give more people an opportunity to experience the life-changing self-discovery that this opportunity provides. And I am very sad that I'm away from LA right now because I can only imagine how much more powerful it would be if I was back home and able to be there in person for the next one. Or I don't know, maybe by the time you do it, maybe I'll be back in LA by then. Because this Phoenix nonsense is for the birds. But no, super, super grateful for each and every one of you. And yeah, it's so rare and beautiful for there to be a space for this kind of dialogue, for this kind of reflection, for this kind of community. And to like show up, be seen, and I feel like be called into the highest and best within me, you know. Um, I don't really get that, you know, anywhere else. So, yeah, just really grateful and really beautiful to met Tina last time around and now Co and Miriam. Beautiful to know you as well. And I was reaching forward, not to speak first, but to make sure I captured Miriam's info so that we can stay connected. And
Yeah,
I will see y'all next time.
yeah, if y'all drop your information in the chat, I'll make sure to include it in our final email because all of it gets saved. Let's see, Miriam, Jessica, Tina, and Zio the hero. Oh, okay. I understand, Tina. Uh, thank you guys for just a beautiful 10 weeks. I will be seeing you soon and speaking with you soon. Have a good night.